So Freis recently talked to Ken Coleman. They talked about family, raising boys, our culture's view of fathers.
I am still to this day not worthy of my wife. And as long as I have that mindset, I'm constantly working to be worthy of her. There has been a huge problem right now where young men have been starved for leadership. I think there's other men that have fully bought into the hedonistic view of the world, and they look at women as tools of their pleasure.
Correct.
And it's one of the most despicable, least masculine thing that you can possibly do. If you're willing to consider that, okay, maybe what the Bible says is true, then maybe what it says about the role of men and women is also true. So what does it say?
And I thought what was interesting about it too is that he said he could count that maybe on one hand, his marriage.
That's
I think that's a very powerful thing. So when people kind of bristle at this concept of male headship, I think it's because, and I've had a lot of conversations with people recently on this that have a different view of the biblical model, or at least a different interpretation of Ephesians 5, when it comes to what headship actually means and what God defines as the role for the husband and the role for the wife. But I think what they're bristling at is this: they associate headship with like being the master over and ruling over in a way that is not honoring, and in a way that like deprives the wife from rights or a voice. And I just wanted to emphasize that, like, yeah, he said that, I think it was 4 times maybe in his marriage he could think of decisions where they actually weren't in agreement, but as the leader of his home, he had to make a decision for his home. And his wife, as a godly wife, even though she didn't agree, like she thought it should be a different way or maybe not do this thing, whatever it is, she supported that decision. And so what it made me think of is I think that there's an analogy here. It's not a perfect analogy, but there's an analogy towards there's like the CEO of a company, right? You have to have a person who's ultimately accountable for the company, for the organization. Every healthy organization has that.
Right.
Every healthy organization has that. Family is the same thing. Like to pretend like there is this equal authority, ultimate authority, it's not biblical, number one, but it's also, it doesn't really make sense. So if we can use that analogy to say, hey, are there some bad CEOs out there who like will run roughshod over their senior team and over their people and abuse their people, or not listen to their people, not value their people, not value their gifts or their wisdom? Absolutely. Yeah. It's bad leadership. Are there some incredible CEOs out there that you guys have worked with, that I've been able to work with, that they actually are servant leaders? And yeah, the buck stops with them. And if there is, their whole job is to actually build consensus and to cast vision and to say, hey, we're in this together, right? And if there is that moment where it's like, hey, we can't get consensus, like I'm actually have a different viewpoint on this, but a decision needs to be made. What does a good CEO do? He makes the hard decision.
That's right.
But what does a good COO do, or the equivalent of the senior team? They support that decision as best they can and try to make it work as best they can. It doesn't mean the CEO is always going to be right. It doesn't turn out that way. Same thing with a husband. If you have that critical moment where it's like, hey, I feel like we're supposed to do this, we've talked through it, and I have to make this decision. It should be very rare, though, is my whole point. Like, it's not like a male headship means that the husband just sits in a vacuum and says, we're going to do this next. That's not the way it works, right? That's not the way it should work.
So one example recently, so Lisa and I just did our end of year, like annual planning, and we were doing a look back at like, okay, how do we do this past year? Kind of our, and part of our financial review was like, how do we do on our giving? And the business didn't perform as well as we would have hoped that it did this year. And so our giving was obviously impacted by that. And Lisa is very passionate about giving to a particular nonprofit that she loves the work they're doing and loves what God's doing in that organization. I have recently, in large, thanks to Kenny, have changed my tune on, is it okay to tithe to any nonprofit versus the local church, and have since felt this conviction to tithe to our local church. And Lisa doesn't necessarily share that same conviction. And so when it came down to like, hey, we've only got this much to give, we gave it to the local church. And that was like really frustrating for her. Because I was like, hey, this is kind of like, I am also very easy to forgive myself on like, hey, we missed, we thought we were going to make this much. We only made this much. So we gave to this. Well, she felt like, well, that sucks. Cause the thing I wanted to give to, we just like, you're giving yourself a whole lot of grace, but like, I'm the one that got kind of left out in the cold. And just her count. I mean, it was just it was just a very tense conversation. Yeah. And I'm like in the moment, I'm like praying. I'm like, okay, like, how do I navigate this? And just felt like this kind of solution around like, hey, we could do some if we situated some giving this coming year to come like from the business. It was a framing thing. Like we could frame like a purpose partnership for Sweetfish to go to the nonprofit she really cares about, and then our personal giving will still be able to tithe to the church, and just by taking on the responsibility of like finding a solution and not just discounting not that I played the situation perfectly by any means, because I'm sure I should have never got myself into the situation where it was tense and hard, and like I could have played it better. So this is not look at how great I did it, but just the seeing the difference, like the posture of her heart being different when it was not I'm the head and what like we're gonna give to the local church and that's what's happening, like that. And I can very much see how if that is the posture of the husband, the father in the home, how that little isolated instance that was 2 or 3 minutes of coldness and awkwardness, I can see how that can envelop a marriage and envelop a home if that is the posture of the father. And so anyway, that was, I don't know how I'll have a whole lot to contribute in this episode, but that was something, as you said, that stood out.
As a pastor who believes that the Bible teaches headship, I have noticed that the women who bristle most are the women who have experienced bad male leadership in their life.
Yes.
There's almost always a correlation. Not every situation. Some women have allowed feminism and just sin, bad ideas to get in their heads, and that's why they bristle. But that's actually the minority. My experience has been, you teach from the front. The man is the leader of his house. The man is the head. And the women who have the most questions about that or want to push back on that is because they have seen something either in their marriage or in their parents or in someone they know where the dude was a bad leader, caused a lot of pain. So they're going, I don't want to be in a situation where I experience that kind of pain. So they push back on male leadership. And for that, I want to have compassion toward that.
Yes.
And like I recognize that. And so what I've tried to do as a pastor, whenever I smell that, when you sense it, is I grab the husband and take him out for lunch and say, hey, just be honest. Hey, I notice your wife bristles at this a lot. What's going on at home? Is there something? Let me dig in. Is there something going on with you? Why she doesn't want to submit to you? Like let's figure that out first. Or is this a her issue? Is this a you issue? And try to navigate that and try to be compassionate. And I have found that when women in my church sense from me that I am for them, that I'm not going to let their husbands get away with junk, and that I'm compassionate toward, like when the women in my church sense that from me, they are much more likely to submit to their husbands. And so there's something as a pastor you can help. And so I just think we shouldn't just be like, men, you're the leader of the church, you're the leader of your home, you're the head of the household, lead your families well. And then it's responsibility as a church, as a pastor. I feel the weight to like resource the men in my church to be good leaders. And to create safe spaces, and I like to use a progressive woke term, to really legitimately where the women in our church feel like there's a safe place for them to communicate their own frustrations if there's real issues at home that need to be dealt with.
So in our marriage, like if we're facing a particularly difficult decision or a hairy decision, Nicole will sometimes be like, glad I'm not the head of the household.
My wife will say the same thing. She's like, I'm glad I'm not going to stand before God and give account for that one. Thanks,
man. And I'm like, babe, I actually need you right now. I need your input. You got to talk to God too.
So that is spot on assessment in terms of, I think, the most resistance you feel, like some people have really been influenced by the feminist agenda of like, we should be exactly the same as men when it comes to everything. And by the way, like there's common terms here: egalitarianism, complementarianism, right? Egalitarianism basically meaning that the roles should be equal, essentially, right? And the authority should be equal. And as Orthodox Christians who have the right understanding of the Bible, we believe that actually we're equal in the eyes of God, 100%. It's not like one's worth more than the other.
We're equal value.
Equal value, 100%. God's given us different roles. And so that's where we get the complementarian label. Like they complement each other. The roles complement each other.
Yeah.
And it's not actually equal authority. Doesn't mean that, again, that authority can't be abused. So to your point, I think there has been a feminist push that's actually affected a lot. But the most compassionate that we should be is when you uncover that, there's like a personal experience where they've experienced some type of really bad male headship, whether it's in the home or outside the home. And then we need to be understanding of that. Now, I love that you lead with compassion with that, but there's a difference between like what is right theology and what is abused in practice, right? Because good theology can be abused in practice.
100%.
Where I had the biggest issue is, and where I've had these kind of conversations and debates, I posted a video recently with a guy who was this based Chad guy who's like talking about what he's looking for in a wife, right? I don't know if you saw it.
Yes, I did.
And this guy was amazing. Like he was such a grounded, godly man, so like secure in who he was, even though this probably liberal woman's interviewing him. But he talks about what he's looking for in a wife. And he mentions submissive, and she's like, submissive? And she's dying laughing about it, right? He's like, what do you mean by that? And he explains what he means by that in a very biblical way of like, and one of the comments that came back on my reaction to this video was, it amazes me the mental gymnastics that Christians go to be able to justify male headship. And I'm like, okay, like if you're going to say it's a theology issue, it was essentially that. It was basically the mental gymnastics it takes to have this type of view, it was the comment, right? Which is essentially what this guy was advocating for, a biblical view. What was that?
We need to buy that guy a physical Bible.
It came from a female, but the female's comment. But I have grace. I have a lot of grace, and we should have a lot of compassion for the practice when we see people who have been influenced by, again, the abuse of male headship in practice. But for people who want to insist that theology is actually like has a different meaning than what it does, that God didn't really mean that the man should be the head of the home as Christ is the head of the church. And when they try to equate, actually, can I let you steal man when people look at Ephesians 5, when the more modern progressive view of Ephesians 5, what do they say?
The modern progressive view of Ephesians 5 tends to be the word head in the Greek doesn't mean head as we think of, but it actually means source. So that the men are the source of women. That Adam was first, and that women came out of Adam, and so that therefore Ephesians 5 is saying that women should honor the fact that they came from men, but since then every man has come from a woman. Woman is now the source, and we should honor her. So there's like this. It's like this. We each honor one another, we're both equal, and so there's no hierarchy in marriage. That's the view of Ephesians 5. But the Greek word there that is translated in English as head could mean source, but when you actually look at it the way it's used throughout the New Testament, it doesn't fit. Like whenever you look at a Greek word and how it fits in different contexts, like does it logically fit all of the other contexts? The answer is no. So like it can only mean headship. Also, in Ephesians 5, it talks about Jesus being the head of the church. Like Jesus and the church are not equal. Jesus is over the church. That's the
big.
And there's no moment where the church tells Jesus what to do. Yeah. So like men are Jesus, the picture of Christ in the home. The woman is a picture of the church. Like that's the picture. At what context does the church tell Jesus what to do? At what context is Jesus? No, there's a hierarchy. Jesus, church. In the home, there's a hierarchy. Men, women. I hope that's helpful.
No, it is for sure. But so you can research the theology of this. But one point I'd make, and we see this honestly across the board. You've mentioned this recently in a sermon, Kenny, of like when you see these like progressive views on something that's actually very clear in the Bible. Like if you read Ephesians 5, it takes serious mental gymnastics to pretend that it doesn't mean what it says. Like just the way that the emphasis is between husband and wife. And again, it's not just the emphasis on the head. The husband's also getting this incredible responsibility to die for his wife.
Sacrificially
sacrifice
love
for his wife, right?
One piece of Steelman that I've heard is if you rewind, is it in Ephesians that if you rewind a little bit, it's like submit yourselves one to another?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
In the context of a local church, that the members are submitting to each other.
There's a general accountability that we all should have for each other, but then it's very clear after that. Then it goes from like talking about all Christians together to specifically addressing wives, specifically addressing husbands.
He also addresses parents and kids in that situation. I don't think he's imagining that kids are going to tell their parents what to do.
Yeah.
I would say there's a sense, sorry, this is tangent. I would say there's a sense in which, in the Christian sense, we should submit ourselves one to another within the family. So like, as a fellow, as a brother to my sister in Christ, I will submit myself to her in the sense of, oh, you'd like me to do that? I will do that. I will serve you.
Yes.
I'll do that for you.
And under the ultimate accountability of Christ, which is what this all comes back to, right? So it's like, this gets abused when the male headship goes wrong when the male is not submitting to Christ. So the female, the rest of the family, they have no obligation to submit to someone who's not submitted to Christ, in the sense of, like, if he's doing anything that is leading you astray, leading you into sin, or which abuse would be a part of this too. You shouldn't submit to that authority. Your ultimate authority, each individual, the Bible's very clear on this too, is ultimately accountable to God. It should be submitting to God versus man. But what I was going to say before is that a common theme with like these progressive interpretations, reinterpretations of the text that is so clear is they happened within the last, let's say, 100 years, 100 to 200 years, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like all of a sudden, like if you ask these people, it's really hard for them to answer this question. So you're telling me that's what it meant this whole time? That's what God designed it for? And for the last
It took us 1900 years to
2,000
get the
years,
translation
basically,
right.
no one knew this until now? Like, there wasn't any debate about this in the past. It wasn't like does it really mean that? I don't know. There was no dissenting, like this modern interpretation of trying to, again, reinterpret what male headship actually looks like.
Yeah.
But the other thing I would say is, like, when you get those abuse like scenarios where like they've seen it gone wrong, right? Mm-hmm. Here's like, I think the proper response to that, and that is, yes, it can be abused. Just like you can have a really bad boss, a really bad CEO, a really bad king, but it doesn't mean that the model inherently
Is bad.
That's right. Or a sinful model. It doesn't mean that. In fact, we know theologically God designed it this way. Like this is like, so God wouldn't design a model that is inherently wrong.
That's right.
So when you say that male headship is inherently wrong with this feminist kind of modern viewpoint today, you're basically saying that, hey, God, you got it wrong, because this is very clear what he set up. But number two, it's like, yeah, can it go wrong? Absolutely. Like you can have a bad CEO, but you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater in that situation. You don't say that, oh, we can't have any more CEOs and companies. It has to be a egalitarian model, and everybody has to be able to come together and make the decision. That doesn't actually work very well. It's not very healthy, right?
Right.
So the healthiest model, just to underscore this, the healthiest model is the one that God designed, and in practice, so the theology needs to be right. It's good theology. It can go wrong in practice, but when it's done well, when it's honoring to all parties, when the man is being honored and the woman's role is being honored, and this is where I think like there is a dark side to like the male headship folks that are like very authoritarian and they don't value their wives, because it also says in Ephesians, that same passage, cherish her.
That's right.
Yeah.
Cherish her. Like that
Yeah.
word cherish, that means like
Treasure, esteem, respect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Value her, not just for her ability in the kitchen or whatever else they want to say, right? But for her giftings. And when you pair this with Proverbs 31, when you see an incredibly like gifted, enterprising woman who also was an incredible homemaker, but also did a lot of enterprising things outside of a home, you can see like this is the healthy model. It's a king and queen model. And guess what? In a king and queen model, there's still a hierarchy. There's still an ultimate authority. But in a healthy king and queen model, that queen is treasured, honored, and she has so much that she's bringing to the table.
Yeah. When I'm talking to somebody, so I recently listened to a pastor preach a sermon on the egalitarian way of thinking about this stuff. And he ended it like, hey, if anybody wants to ask me theological questions, I'm sure this opens up a whole can of worms. Like I'm open to it. I approached him and I was like, I would love to ask you a ton of theological questions. Because truly, with someone like that, I feel like I can have a fruitful conversation. It depends on who you're talking to too, because most people, I think, they're bringing the world's worldview into how they want to see. So it's like it ultimately, for most people, it just comes down to where did you get your worldview from? If you're getting if you're saying my worldview is going to come from God's word, then it's very hard. Like
Yes.
maybe there's going to be a few people that walk away interpreting an egalitarian way of thinking about it, and that's going to be a fun conversation. Most people are going to walk away thinking, oh, this is the way that God structured it. And the way I think about it is, what the world values is democracy. The world wants to democratize everything. So the world views democracy as like the highest good. All people are equal. All people have equal power. They say that. Actually, it devolves into a whole bunch of junk. But that's what they would say. Where God's design is different from that. And it's different in a way that's kind of hard to accept. And that is that God is going to give people different amounts of responsibility.
That's right.
And he expects faithful stewardship with whatever he gave that person.
That's right.
So to one person, he's going to give one type of responsibility, and to another, he's going to give another type of responsibility. And what he wants is faithful stewardship. And as men, whether we like it or not, we are the leader of the home. We're the leader whether we like it or not. Adam led his family into chaos by not leading.
That's right.
By not leading,
Being passive.
Adam led his family into chaos.
That's right.
And the same thing is true for us as fathers and husbands. If we don't lead, we lead our family into chaos.
I'm gonna give you one quick metaphor and then one practical thing for my marriage. So quick metaphor, and I think this goes back to like, I'm the leader of my household. I'm the head. I am, the Bible actually uses the word Lord occasionally to describe a father in his home, which I know we don't love that word in that context. I didn't write it. I didn't write it. Okay, so take it up with Peter when you meet him. Anyway, and so I think the thing that sometimes we get pushed back on is like, I'm the final decision maker in my home, but I need to make decisions not in the best interest of Kenny, but in the best interest of my family.
That's right.
And that's the key, that's the barometer, right? And so the best example I can come up with, which I don't know is great because not everyone's a football fan, but I think about a quarterback. Right? The quarterback's the guy with the ball in his hand who's making a decision. So the quarterback drops back, he's got the ball in his hand, and his teammates are running, and he's trying to determine who's going to throw the ball to. But each one of those receivers, they want the ball to come to them.
Yeah.
Right? I'm an Eagles fan right now, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. Like A.J. Brown, he's the wide receiver. He's going to the end zone. He wants to score the touchdown every time, which I totally understand, right? He's like, throw the ball to me. But Jalen Hurts, though, is back there with the ball, and he can see the whole field. And his job is to say, the number one job of the team is to win.
Yeah.
I got to throw the ball in a situation that's going to give the team the best chance to win, whether you score the touchdown or not. If you scoring the touchdown is in the best interest of the team, I'm throwing the ball to you, right? If it's not in the best interest for you to get your way in this moment, though, I got to do something different because we're looking at the team, and it's not about me. It's not about me scoring the touchdown either. And so you have to be willing. So as the father and the husband, I got to go. I'm surveying the field, and my wife has certain desires and preferences, and I want to honor that. Listen, I want you to score some touchdowns. It's fun to score touchdowns. I want you to score touchdowns, and I want you to contribute to the success of the team. There's going to be moments where you don't get your way. Because I've got a broader picture, and my job is to try to explain that. Right? So a good quarterback at the end of the play, I'm using my analogy here, like at the end of the play, if he throws the ball somewhere else, you go to the sideline and explain, hey, receiver, the reason I didn't do that is because right? Or even better, you're doing it ahead of time, like in the play before the play happens, you're having dialogue with each other, like if this happens, I'm going to do this because it's in the betterment of the team. It's like me and my wife are having those conversations, like I know you want this is ideal. Like, okay, but if this happens, I'm going to do this, and here's the reason why, because I think it's better for our family long term. And my wife is like, I trust, because my wife trusts that I'm not in it for my own glory, but I'm in it for the success of our family, the flourishment of the team, to the glory of God in our team. Because my wife is convinced of that of me, it makes it easier. It's not always easy, but easier to submit to that. And so I get practical example in our family. My wife has communicated she wants to be a certain kind of mom. Here's a picture of the kind of mom she wants to be. But to be that kind of mom is going to be really hard. It's going to take some sacrifice. But she's like, I know this is the good thing for me. Well, I know. So practically one night, it's a certain time. She plops down on the couch to throw on something on Netflix. And I said, baby, you're going to have to get up early at a certain time because you want to be the kind of mom. You said you want to be this kind of mom. And that kind of mom's going to have to wake up at this time tomorrow morning. And if you're watching Netflix, you're not going to get up. She's like, well, I just want to watch. And I took the remote gently and said, baby, I really think you should turn this off and go to bed. She's like, oh, okay.
Patriarchy.
I mean that, and I did it gentle, but like I did it gently. I was very kind.
Yeah.
I was, baby, I think you really should do this. But I in essence told my wife to go to bed.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
which I know sounds really harsh. I know, but I did it very gently. But I did it with her best interest in mind,
Yes.
and I called back to what she wants. Like
Yeah.
you said, you want this thing, and I want you to have that thing too because you want it. Like it will bring you joy to be this thing. So it's my job to tell you what to do in this moment so that you can be the mom that you want to be.
I love that. And I would say that sort of example cuts both ways. Lexi does that to me frequently, right? So it's not like it's like, oh, that's only the male's position to be able to do that. But it like you're in it for each other. You're in it for each other.
That's right.
Ultimately, authority. That's one thing I want to clarify is you guys know Lex. I am married to a very strong woman. I'm not married to a docile woman but she's also one who recognizes.
I don't think any of us
as much as I think we probably are all married to fiery, strong women, right? And so I think that's the irony here. We're not looking for like the quiet, mousy woman. Oh, whatever you say, and I'm not going to speak up too much. That's not at all what I think is the right model. And like ultimately, we should be the ones. Like leadership means sacrifice, and so much of what the decisions that we're making are actually prioritizing what our wife wants, her desires.
That's right.
So like you heard the common phrase, happy wife, happy life, right? And I believe that there is so much truth to that. It's actually very true. It's very true in the family. Like your wife is happy. But here's what I would say, the caveat. It doesn't mean that in order to like the way it's used is happy wife, happy life. I've got to, whatever she says,
give her whatever she wants.
whatever she's wanting.
Yeah.
It's actually the opposite of that, I think. What creates true happiness, especially in strong-willed women, is when they are led very well by a strong man. And to be led very well means that they're actually valued, appreciated, cherished as a Proverbs 31 woman. So
As ugly as all of this sounds, the more I've stepped into it, the happier my marriage has been.
That's right.
I didn't step into it a
Lexi would say
ton
the same
in my
thing.
last marriage. I stepped into it a ton in this marriage, and it's
good.
just produced so much joy in the marriage. Like there's something going on right now that Nicole is not happy about, but because of things that need to be the case for the good of our family, I'm like, I'm sorry, like this is just going to be how it is right now. That's probably not the right attitude. But what I'm trying to do is be like, look, we're going to prioritize this thing over this thing, even though right now that is creating a lot of bad feelings. And ultimately, Nicole responds very well to it. Ultimately, like in the moment, she might be very frustrated, but ultimately she's like, I'm really glad that she'll say things to me like, I'm really glad that you got us to prioritize this thing.
great.
We got spirit, and I know you hear it. There's no give up, give up, give up, give up enough.